The movie begins in Bellwood on a dark, cloudy night. The night is interrupted by a dark figure. He destroys the Bellwood, but he is stopped in his tracks by Ben Tennyson in one of his many alien forms. This time, Ben is a Heat Blast, a fire-throwing hero. Heat Blast fights off Eon, a time-traveling villain. Suddenly, goons appear and surround Heat Blast. At that moment, police officers arrive. The officers are surrounded by Eon's henchmen. Heat Blast saves the cornered police officers. He then strikes Eon with a blast of fire. Heat Blast wins the battle, so he thinks. The battle has only just begun. Just in time, Heat Blast changes into Ben, our 10-year-old hero. Ben's grandfather and his cousin Gwen also appear. They reprimand Ben for transforming into an alien without their consent. Ben is too occupied by the thought that the remaining goons are still on the loose. But Ben's worries are soft-lived. He has bigger problems. His grandfather reminds him that tomorrow he has to go back to school. Summer vacation is over. The three of them travel through the suburbs. We watch Ben travel from his home to his school, greeting all of the familiar faces of Bellwood. Ben finally arrives at school where he hears girls talking about the news from last night. Heat Blast was fighting another alien in their own town. They're all excited by the news. Ben approaches and tells them that he knows Heat Blast. They all ignore his comment and walk past him. Here, he is no hero. He is at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Meanwhile, Gwen is taking pictures for the yearbook. She takes snaps of all the students until Ben hops in front of her camera as a joke. Ben reminds her that this summer he was fighting aliens, that he should be very famous very soon. She reminds Ben that he was not the only one doing it. He did it with the help of both her and Grandpa. Ben follows up to ask for help with his homework. Gwen quickly shuts down his request. She says Ben should have done the homework on his own. Ben returns to bullies, bad grades, and being picked last in gym class. Ben tries to retaliate against his school bullies, JT and Cash, by throwing something at them, but Ben misses and hits Principal White. Ben is sent home early that day. His parents, Carl and Sandra, are unhappy with him. Carl tells Ben he should find a healthy outlet for his anger management issues. Ben doesn't pay much attention to his parents. All he wants to do is spend time with his grandfather. His parents think it would be best if he finds friends his age. Ben leaves, despite his parents' comments. Meanwhile, Grandpa is in his trailer, working on a wrench that has a laser on its end. The laser works perfectly. Suddenly, Ben walks into his grandpa's trailer, telling him he wants to leave Bellwood and fight aliens. Grandpa sits Ben down and asks him what the problem is. Ben explains that he doesn't understand why he can't let the world know who he is. Grandpa asks Ben if he thinks that will help him make friends. Ben responds with an enthusiastic yes. Grandpa jokingly says that Ben should tell them all his identity. Ben is happy that he and Grandpa are on the same page. Ben asks, "Really?" with enthusiasm. Grandpa shuts him down. We see Eon is still alive in a clock tower with all of his alien henchmen. Eon tells them that it's time he brings his people to Earth and ends all of humanity. But before Eon can do that, he must deal with Ben Tennyson. Meanwhile, Ben has decided to take his grandfather's advice and decides to take a stab at being a normal kid. He plans to show the girls that he can transform into aliens, but before he can do that, Gwen appears. She stops Ben in his tracks. She says that she and Ben are magicians and they'd like to enter. Ben leaves for a local dinner for a bite. Here, he meets a local waitress who is a friend of his grandfather. She asks Ben how he's doing. She decides she'll get him a milkshake to lift his spirits. Soon after she leaves, JT and Cash come into the dinner, and they begin to torment Ben with a barrage of insults. They pass and the girls from school appear and do the same thing. They make fun of him for being a magician's assistant to his cousin. Ben has had enough and decides to step out. He goes outside the diner and he decides to use the Omnitrix. He wants to transform into four-arms, a massive, four-eyed alien with 4 arms, but instead he turns into gray matter, a genius micro-alien. Ben decides he will make the most out of this, and sets up a series of pranks that leaves all his bullies covered in pie and hot dogs. After this, Ben goes to the rust bucket to see Gwen. He scares her from the window and after that asks her what she is doing. She is working on the yearbook photos she has already taken. Ben quickly grabs the computer and looks through her camera roll for pictures of himself. All he can find is the one that has a strange figure in the background. They enhance the image. The person in the back is Eon. It means he has been following Ben through town. At that moment, Grandpa walks in and asks what the two of them are doing. Grandpa immediately knows that they're looking at Eon. Grandpa explains that Eon is the first alien ever captured by the plumbers. Ben asks if Grandpa cleaned Eon's toilet. Grandpa explains that the plumbers are an underground organization responsible for anything related to aliens. Grandpa explains that Eon is a half-dead alien, whose goal is to get the hands of Armageddon, a device that would bring aliens to Earth and bring the end to humankind. Grandpa realizes that the time for acting normal has ended. They're going on a road trip. Ben is happy with this decision. They're off. The three of them arrive at the chem lab. Grandpa goes through his box of keys, hoping to get the right one. He finally does. Grandpa opens the gate and explains to Ben and Gwen that the chem lab was built to do tests on alien life forms and technologies. This is where they kept Eon. This is where he is supposed to be locked up. The three of them walk through the chem labs for Jacobs. The plumber was solely responsible for Eon. Jacobs is found dead, so they think. Eon has aged Jacobs near the point of death. Jacobs warns Grandpa and Ben that Eon is after Ben in the Omnitrix. He tells Grandpa he has to get to the hands of Armageddon before Eon can get to it at the hardware store. The three of them arrive at the hardware store. The front looks plain and boring until Grandpa presses a few buttons that change it. They all go in. Unknown to the three of them, they are followed by Eon's henchmen. They reach the bottom of the hardware store. The doors open and they see the symbol of the plumbers. They also see the various people of Bellwood who have been undercover. Principal White, a local fireman, a local postman, and the waitress from the local diner. They all go to the hands of Armageddon. The plumbers explain to Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa that they have tried everything to destroy the hands of Armageddon, but it's far too powerful to be destroyed. The warehouse is suddenly attacked by Eon's henchmen, and a battle ensues between the plumbers and the henchmen. While the battle goes on, Eon appears in front of the hands of Armageddon. Ben attempts to transform into an alien to stop Eon, but he cannot, although Ben manages to escape and is followed by a car that is being controlled by Eon telepathically. Ben is cornered by Eon and it seems that all is over, until Ben is saved by another local plumber at the last moment. Ben returns home exhausted and relieved that he survived the day. His mother and father ask Ben where he has been all night. He quickly lies on the spot and explains that he was out rehearsing with Gwen for the talent show. His parents are happy that he has decided to hang out with people his age. Ben goes to his bedroom prepared to sleep when he finds Grandpa sitting in his room. Ben tells Grandpa he wants to take care of Eon on his own. Grandpa refuses Ben's request and tells him that Ben can only do that if he is under constant surveillance from the plumbers in Bellwood. They agree to that compromise. The next day, he meets Gwen, who tells him that she will take care of the talent show while he prepares for Eon's eventual attack. Ben finds his way into the school gym, trying to avoid the constant gaze of the plumbers. There, he meets Principal White, who tells Ben that if he needs anyone to talk to, he is there for him. Principal White leaves and is about to exit the gym when he remembers one thing. He turns around and begins speaking. Suddenly, Principal White speaks in slow motion. Eon is there. Ben quickly tries to escape, but he cannot. He is held against the wall by Eon, but Ben manages to escape by setting off the fire alarm and punching Eon on his side. Then Ben finally uses the Omnitrix and changes to Diamond Head. At this point, he and Eon go on fighting until Eon tells Ben that the students are going to convene at the gym. Their fight ends just in time before the kids enter. Ben stays hidden in the bathroom waiting to turn human once again, while Eon disappears. Ben decides that he will try and set up a trap for Eon so that they can fight on Ben's terms. Before Ben can do anything, Grandpa and Gwen arrive and tell him that Eon might want Ben alone. The three of them almost leave, but they're ambushed by Eon and his goons. The plumbers are all trapped and Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa are held hostage by Eon. Grandpa pleads with Eon. He asks that the kids be released and he can keep the Omnitrix, but Eon doesn't want to. Eon explains that the Omnitrix has a failsafe that allows the wearer to change for only 10 minutes. Eon wants to overwrite the failsafe and take over Ben's body as an alien so that he can have full control over the Omnitrix and unleash the power of the Hands of Armageddon. Eon becomes Ben, and with the help of the Omnitrix switches on the Hands of Armageddon. The portal to the other dimension begins to open, and aliens start to appear on Earth. Meanwhile, Ben's parents and all the other parents have begun flooding the school hall for the talent show. Unbeknownst to them, a threat has appeared, threatening all of their lives, and alien spaceships fill the sky. Grandpa asks Gwen to kick the wrench in his pocket, and the laser in that wrench sets Grandpa's arms free. Principal White appears at the plumbers who have been captured and sets them all free. The plumbers are off, with guns in their hands, ready to take on the threat. Grandpa tries to shut down the Hands of Armageddon on his own, with a pair of power cables, while Gwen tries to free Ben from the confines of Eon. She uses all she knows about Ben to help him win the battle within himself. Gwen wins, and Eon transforms into Ben. The Ben they've always known has returned. Ben helps Grandpa get off the Hands of Armageddon. Ben succeeds, and Grandpa is free from the Hands of Armageddon. The Hands of Armageddon are turned off, and the alien spaceships in the sky have disappeared. The Tennysons and the plumbers are on their way to the school talent show. Suddenly, Eon appears and is about to kill Ben. He throws Ben across the hardware store. Ben quickly turns into Wild Mutt, a furry, beast-like alien. Wild Mutt attacks Eon and throws him at the Hands of Armageddon, destroying it and destroying Eon. The day is saved, and Ben and Gwen make it on time to the talent show, with no talent to show. Gwen is on stage with Wild Mutt, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the Omnitrix times out, and Gwen comes up with an idea to make this their magic trick. She covers Wild Mutt with a curtain and says, "Abracadabra," and reveals a 10-year-old Ben. The audience is shocked, but none more than the bullies who thought Ben was lying about knowing Wild Mutt. Unfortunately, Ben and Gwen came in second place, but are happy that they were able to win the war to save humanity. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. I'll be back with another interesting movie recap. Until then, take care.